about 4 kids: Lacey, 13, James, 10, Maybeth, 9, and Sammy, 6. They're trying to get to their Aunt Sybil's house because their mom left them, and their aunt is the only relative they knew of. They got there, but with a few problems because their aunt died. But their cousin, which was living in their aunt's house, took them in.
34 years since the kidnapping and murder of 10-year-old Amy Mihaljevic after she disappeared from a shopping plaza in Bay Village. Her case is believed to be one of the biggest unsolved mysteries here in Northeast Ohio. Her killer has not been caught, but investigators are hoping that DNA testing advancements will help bring justice for Amy's family.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Missing Pacific Northwest Crimes Revisited. I'm Samantha. I have Kaylia with me, my partner, as always.
Welcome in, everybody. Hope you're all having a great Thursday.
And this is the story of Amy Mihaljevic. Vic. I have to keep telling myself Vic.
I know I have to.
I'm so sorry.
Your name over too. It's just a tricky one, and it's not us. I guess it's just not something my tongue is used to doing. That sound. It's a beautiful name.
It is. So it's May 2nd, 2024. It was a half beautiful and kind of rainy day. It was kind of back and forth. It was one of those Pacific Northwest days. And I am really glad to be doing another missing child. This is new for us. The name of the show is The Stranger's Call and the Deadly Gift That Took Amy Mihaljevic. And this is a very sad story. Wow. But I think that with new evidence that's been coming in, I think with the way that the tides are rolling, I actually think that this 34-year-old case is going to be solved.
Yeah, it does seem solvable to me. As crazy as that sounds, it has been, like you said, 34 long years, but it's far from a cold case. It's one of the longest cases that isn't a cold case. And yeah, as we kind of go through the decades of how this investigation has unraveled, one thing is clear, and that's that the public is definitely needed to help solve this case. It's solvable, but we all need to do our part. We need to keep sharing her story, share the composite sketches, and so thank you all for supporting us. Like Samantha said, our first, I guess, out of our bubble child that we're going to cover, and this is a really, really I don't want to say deserving case, but it's 34 years old, and that's why it really stood out to us.
And there are pieces of evidence, things they have found, things that Amy Mihaljevic had that day on her that are missing, that if you guys have seen these items, if you guys have seen these things, you might be able to help the case. That's why we're doing it. We actually put up some of that evidence at the beginning of one of our lives a long time ago. So I've been following this case now for a few months. I talked to Kaylia about it a few months ago. And then here recently, I started thinking about her again. And then her show came on TV and I'm like, okay. So yeah, let's jump right into this. It's kind of a little bit of a long story, and we really want to, I had tears pouring down my face during that intro. I have my headphones on, and the music and everything, I think, just like really overstimulated me. That really got to me because this is such a sad case. And I don't want to say cold because there's lots of different suspects and people of interest. And we're going to be doing another live on that after we tell her story today. Right. Which is kind of exciting, and we're going to be breaking down the search efforts that they did. But there are several suspects. And when you hear about these suspects, you can point your finger at one, like maybe you'll pick this one or maybe you'll pick that one. But they all definitely have some kind of, yeah, there's a reason why these people are suspects. And me and Kaylee are just floored that there's no one's been arrested yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So Amy was 10 years old in 1989. She was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and she was born on December 11th, 1978. Her parents are Margaret and Mark Mihaljevic. Margaret's maiden name is McNulty, or how do you say that? McNulty?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah. She had a brother that was 2 years older than her. So at this time, Jason was 12 years old. And they move to Cleveland, Ohio, and they settle in the little suburb of Bay Village, which at the time rated 6 out of 10 as one of the most nicest and safest places to live in 1984. And that's why they picked it. So, they're just a small little family picking this beautiful Bay City to live in Ohio. Amy was a fifth grader going to Bay Village Middle School, and she was in a gifted program at the school. She was really smart and talented for her age. She loved riding horses at the Holly Hill stables and loved her dog Jake. And actually, her dog Jake would actually end up being one of the keys in solving Amy's case, which we will get into in a little bit. And on October 27th of 1989, Amy wakes up to get ready for school. She has had plans after school to do a little bit of shopping, and she couldn't wait to go shopping and go buy this gift for her mom. She left first school about 7:20 a.m. in the morning. She usually would ride her bicycle with her best friend. What was her best friend's name again?
Was it Kristen? Christy?
Yeah, Christy, what is it? Sabo?
Something
Sabo?
along. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe it. You're right.
And that morning, she ends up riding her bike to school by herself. And she gets to school at a regular time. School starts about 7:45. And all around, this is a pretty,
Average
day for her, average school day. The only thing that was going on that day at school, it was this meet your friendly local officer presentation that let's see, was put on by Mark, who is a police chief, and he was a police chief later on, and he realizes that Amy is in his class when he does this presentation. And this is when he was like super young. He was only in the force for like 4 years when he does this presentation. And during this presentation, he's also talking about stranger danger and talking to kids about not getting in vehicles with strangers, not talking to strangers, not, and all of that kind of stuff. So when she ends up coming up missing later on, he felt like, could I have said something different? Could I have done something different during this presentation to, reach her? Because he realizes later she's in this class that day. So I can't even imagine being this guy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I saw him during his interview when he was talking about like, what else could I have done? What else could I have said? He said afterwards he had done a couple more presentations like that before, and he like really, really added every single little tiny piece he possibly could to those presentations because he never wanted anything like that to happen again.
Yeah. What's crazy is just a little tidbit that I heard is that the bike that she rode that day, the police still have that in evidence at the Bay Village Police Department there. And it's sat there for all those years, all these decades, I mean.
Yeah. I actually have a picture of it. I'm going to throw it up in a little while. But yeah, I couldn't believe when I saw the picture of her bicycle either. So after this presentation and stuff, there's lunch, and Amy goes to lunch, and she's talking to a couple of friends at lunchtime, and she's telling them that she's been talking with this man on the telephone, and this man worked with her mom, and that he had been telling her he needed help to buy his mom a gift because she was getting a promotion at work. And he was like, you got to keep this a secret. You can't tell anybody. And she didn't tell her friends that he told her it was a secret, but she did end up telling her brother about the phone call, telling a friend about this phone call. But this man called her, told her to keep the secret. She was super, super excited to go get this present for her mom. Like, so stoked that her mom was getting a promotion. Her and her mom were super, super close to one another. So this was something so exciting for her. She just could not wait to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, that is the way that this man lures her to a meeting place, because she's telling her friends, I'm meeting him after school. So back in 1989, it was normal for our children, like Amy, like Jason, to leave school, to go home by themselves, wait for their mom to come home. Jason was a little bit older than her, so it's not a really big deal for, them to go home. And they had very specific rules with mom, like, when you get home, call me, let me know you're there, let me know you're safe. And that's kind of what they did. And we know the world was so much different back then. That was just something you could do. Bay Village Middle School had actually just started this thing with the younger classes being at the middle school. So the younger kids were getting out at 2:05. The older kids were getting out at 3:05. So this day, Amy is leaving the middle school by herself without her brother at 2:05 in the afternoon. And like I said, her brother wasn't even going to be getting out for another hour. So Amy left her bicycle at school, and she walked down Wolf Road to get to the Bay Village Square, which is a shopping center. I'm going to throw up a picture that I have of this is a map just showing you guys, like, it was so close to the school. Bay Middle School is on the left-hand side. It's about whoa. I forgot this was a longer video. It's about a 4-minute walk down Wolf Road. And when she gets to the bridge, she actually runs into a couple of her friends. And they all continue walking to go down to the shopping center. They're at Bay Village Square. And when they get down there, this is the place where all of the kids meet after middle school, especially on a nice day, even though it's October 27 and it was an unusual sunny day, and all of the kids were meeting at Baskin and Robbins like they always did. And she goes there with her friends, and they hang out for a little while, and then she tells her friends, okay, I gotta go, because she's going to meet up with this guy to go buy this present. And after she walks away from her friends, she's seen pacing around between Baskin and Robbins, this barber shop that's sitting there. And I want to show, hold on a second. So here, this will give you an idea of what the shopping center looked like. This is it across the street from the courthouse. This is the big parking lot. So it's just like an L-shaped little shopping center with a bunch of different little stores and stuff. I've actually wondered if she thought that they were going to be shopping there. This here is just another map to show how close the middle school is. Now, if you look over in the left-hand corner, it's not there, but in the very, very left-hand corner, probably about a block down from that would have been her house. So it wasn't far to the school. It wasn't far to the shopping center at all from where they lived. And this would kind of give you an idea. Where the red dot is where their house is, and where Bay Village words are on the right is actually where the shopping center was. And then this again is just, Wolf Road is a long road. You got Bay Middle School right there next to Bay Village. So, little tiny community, no worries usually back then about kids, going to and from school or going to and from the shopping centers or whatever.
Right. It just was a totally different time. And they did live close. I mean, close enough where she rode her bike every day. And yeah. And, 10 years old, was home from school alone. That's just so different from today's standards.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And it was normal. Like, I was one of those kids that, if I wanted to, I could leave and just call home and just say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. If I wasn't coming home right away. And Amy, she actually had lied to her mom and told her mom that morning, or maybe it was before that she was going to be doing a 5th grader choir audition after school. So she didn't like having to lie to her mom about it. She was just so darn happy about being able to go get her mom this gift, thought her mom would understand later, kind of thing. But after she walks away from all of her friends, this is where she ends. This is where she ends up. She's hanging out at this little light pole outside the barber shop. She saw spinning around on it, hanging on to it, spinning around. She's pacing back and forth from, Baskin and Robbins and that. And she's just waiting. She's waiting for this guy who said, this is where you can meet me. And these are the actual crime scene photos too. This is just the long, distance right here on the corner. This is Baskin and Robbins. So they could see her. The kids could see her. People could see her spinning around this pole and everything else. It's not a very big L-shaped, little shopping center. So, I've got some notes here. Let me see real quick. I tell you that I can remember so much when I start writing, and I thought I was going to need to look at the script, and I didn't, and now I'm like pages ahead of myself, and I'm having to flip through to find my notes. It's hilarious because if I write something down, I don't forget it. Let's see. So witnesses end up saying that they saw Amy with a man, but when they looked back, Amy was gone. The witnesses were only 10 years old. They were very young, and they gave 2 completely different yet similar descriptions of this man that they saw Amy with. This is the 2 different sketches that they did.
And they do look similar. I mean, they are pretty close for 2 different people. They look like they could be brothers,
Right. That's what I mean. Like, they're similar yet different.
Mm-hmm.
And 10-year-old kids, they're not going to be able to come up with like 100% accurate.
It's hard. Like, it's definitely hard going by memory, especially like I listened to some podcasts about the case, and one thing they kept saying is people have this hindsight is 2020 feeling like, man, if only I just remembered their license plate, or if only I just paid attention closer. But this guy looked like the dad to these bystanders. They had no reason to believe anything
Right.
bad was happening. The interaction between Amy and this man was completely normal. Amy didn't look scared. There was no red flags to anybody to pay attention to that stuff. So,
Right. And one of the witnesses, there were also a few witnesses that came forward later on that said they saw her walking through the parking lot. So some witnesses saw her spinning around the pole. Some witnesses actually seen her with the man, which were these two 10-year-old kids. But when they look back, she's gone. And then other witnesses witness her leaving and walking with a man walking through the parking lot. And nobody thought anything of it because they're thinking this was her dad. So they tell the police that he was wearing a beige windbreaker with plaid lining, front pressed khakis, and a button-up shirt. And his hair was described as being thick and like bushy eyebrows. But nobody knows at this time that Amy's even missing until after Amy's mom comes home from work. Jason, her brother, he gets out of school at 3:10 and he gets home and calls his mom and tells her that Amy wasn't home. And Margaret, that's the mom, she just lets him know, she had this choir audition after school. She's fine. Everything's fine. And he just goes about like everything's fine because his mom knew that she was gone and where she was. And he starts doing his homework. So he doesn't think anything of it. And then that day, while she's at work, she's decided she's going to leave work a little bit early, but about 10 minutes before she leaves to go to work, she gets a phone call. And it's Amy. And she's calling her mom at work to check in, like this is a normal thing. She's got to check in. She's letting her know that everything is fine and she'll be seeing her soon. And this is what makes me think, like, I really think maybe she thought she was just going to be shopping there at the Bay Village, square.
Yeah.
But
when
at
she
this
made that
time,
call, go ahead. Sorry. I think
I
you're
was
going
going
to
to
say what
say,
I'm about to say.
when she makes this call, Margaret doesn't even know that she's already wandered off from the Bay Village Square and is gone because she gets home at 5:30 and she's not there. So she's already been with this guy now a few hours.
Yeah, and she probably told that guy, I have to call my mom. She might not have known she was in danger yet, or maybe that guy made her call her mom, but her mom didn't have any reason to believe she was in danger. She wasn't talking weird. She was talking completely unstressed and normal. And so, it went a couple more hours before anyone realized that she never made it home. And they don't know if that call was in duress or if it was something that she was like, oh, I need to call my mom. And he just was like, okay, let's do that.
And Margaret, she didn't know that this phone call that she made wasn't from home. She thought Amy was calling her from home. In 1989, there was no way for her to know that Amy wasn't at home. There's no caller ID. There's like nothing like that. So she just thought she was calling her from home. By the way, I kind of feel like rude. I am so sorry for not saying hi to everybody in chat. Hey, hello, Avi. Nice to see everybody here. Let me see up here in chat. Sparkling Bubbles, good to see you. I don't know if I've seen you before. Dean Runkle was 1 year away from retirement when asked for fingerprints, decided he wanted to be a ragtime performer in Florida.
Yeah, when we go into the suspects, there's some suspicious things, and like I'm torn on who I feel could be responsible, but I will say I am agreeing with you. When we get into the suspects, I think a lot of people are going to think the science teacher was very, very suspicious, and but there's other guys that make me think.
I like that idea too that you're talking about, because I actually think it may have been the other person where fibers and stuff has been found.
Right,
But we're not
exactly.
in. Yeah, it's crazy, you guys.
Yeah,
There
we
are
will save this.
legitimately different suspects, and each one of them, that is great. That is not great, sorry, but you are like picking one person of interest, I'm picking another one. I think that's going to make for a great live.
And
But
it shows the complications that the investigators have faced all this time. They have all
exactly.
this evidence, but they don't have enough evidence to point to the one person without a shadow of a doubt. And we all know that that standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, and that is the standard they have to adhere to. They just don't have it yet. So, you know, I'm going to go back to the phone call because I did want to mention some things about that phone call that was I just had thought about while we were researching. Um, First of all, like you had mentioned, there was no caller ID and there was no call logs. So there was literally no way to track who made this call, where it came from, or anything like that. However, they did at that time at least have logs of long distance phone calls, because that required different technology at that time. And so since there was no log of this call coming in, they checked every single long distance call that came to the house. They were able to check every single one of them off. So they knew for sure that this person did live local. He didn't come from out of state. He was from their area. And second of all, when you kind of reflect on that, the fact that there was no logs, you have to consider, like, I mean, compiling data is not easy and it's not cheap. Saving data costs a lot of money. And there was probably a point in time where they decided, you know, we need to start keeping logs of this, and for crime. And that was probably a huge reason why, like, in addition to the way that technology kind of just advanced. But, when they're talking about, oh, we need to keep a log of phone calls, they probably were able to present their case a lot easier to being able to do that or get funding for that, because we need, we need to do this so we can track this stuff. It would have been so much easier if they had a log of the calls coming into that home,
Right.
So
Yeah. I actually wrote all that stuff down too. I'm glad that you kind of brought it up because, yeah, it's just the way they were able to determine that he was not in town was, yeah, they were able to determine that. They knew he was local, and that's why the people of interest are so interesting, because they all are local. They all are from right there. That day, like I said, Margaret's coming home from work early. So it's 5:30 when she gets home. She comes through the door. She realizes that Amy's not there. And she starts asking Jason, where's Amy? Well, I don't know. She hasn't came home yet. Instantly, Margaret's in a panic. Instantly. She's making phone calls to all of Amy's friends. She's calling neighbors. She can't find her anywhere. And, according to Mark, the father, she phone called him, and he even said, like, she really was like in a panic and just really felt immediately like something was wrong. She hops in her car and she goes to the school, and this is what she sees: the bicycle still parked or put into the bike rack, just sitting there with no Amy in sight. And she immediately knew something was wrong. Now I want to throw something else up here because I want to show you guys something. Let me put this up here real quick. So let me pause. Do you guys see right next to the shopping center up above the police station? The police station is exactly across the street. It was even mentioned in a Dateline show that I watched that if a police officer would have been looking out the window at the police department at the time that she came up missing, a police officer could have been a witness to her abduction, because that's how close they are to each other.
You really have to ask yourself, how bold of a criminal, how confident does someone have to be to feel like, I'm going to blend in perfectly and I'm going to pull this off right in front of the police department? Is it a deliberate choice? Like, is this person really, like, how some criminals are, they really do it for, I mean, obviously this person was they did this for a horrible reason. They planned this, they executed this. This was completely planned and premeditated. But did they purposely choose it right in front of the police department to add that extra layer of thrill? Like,
Yeah.
that's just sick to think about. And what's crazy is when we go into the suspects, I don't know if you have this in this live, but the FBI was really involved, and excuse me, and they developed a profile on a type of person who could commit a crime like this. It's very interesting to hear the type of person and the attributes that they said that they were looking for in a type of person. And back then they were like putting it out to the public saying, if you know anybody that has had a sudden change of personality, has, started drinking heavily, has, taken a sudden vacation, anything like that, we want to know anybody in your life. Like, they were combing any person that anything like that they would look into. That's how serious they took this, and how they were really concerned about, could this person go do this again? They don't know, they
Right.
really tried to get this guy.
Yeah. And I mean, she drives immediately to this police department and tells them what's going on. And the police department were able to rule out that she wasn't with any of her friends. And they were able to rule out that she was a runaway. She was 10 years old. Now, if this would have been a older child, they may have thought twice, but they didn't suspect that she was a runaway at all. So, I mean, law enforcement hops on this immediately. And Mark has now gotten home from work. He has taken the dog out, their family dog, started going around looking for her in the car, walking around. He's taken a friend down to the local creek to see if she's fallen in the creek or maybe gotten lost down there, following an animal or something. And so police get their feet on the ground right away, and all available officers were looking up to like 150 to 200 officers, U.S. Coast Guard. And in this area, there just so happened. Now, I don't know if there's like an FBI agency or something there. I was going to look and didn't have time, but 60 FBI agents were able to be there and working on this not even 2 hours later, because they were in the area during the time that she disappeared. So living in the area. So they get involved and join the search. The community gets involved. Family, friends get involved. Everybody's looking for Amy. They are making flyers right away, printing those up. They're making phone calls. They're passing out flyers. And Amy's best friend, Christy Sabos, and her mom, Jane, they drove down to the Channel 3 news building with Amy's picture and said, hey, like, you need to put this picture up. We've got a child missing. And they start telling her that they don't usually put up, pictures of children unless they've been missing for 24 hours, and told her we can't put Amy's picture up. And she just insisted and kept pleading with them and telling them, the story, and just explaining everything that happened. And they finally agreed to show Amy's picture on the news. And when Jane traveled, after she leaves the picture, she's traveling back to the home to go be with Margaret. And when she pulls up in the car, the only thing she can hear is Margaret screaming from inside the house, because Margaret just saw Amy's picture on the news.
Like your worst nightmare confirmed. But
yeah. Oh my gosh, I just got chills.
Yeah, sparkling bubbles. She says it was amazing how fast the community came together for beautiful Amy. It really did seem like, just a real effort of everybody to try to find her. And I bet a lot of people really held on to that hope for a long time and were surprised when she was found, because they were really, really trying to find her alive at any means possible.
In the United States, this was voted the number 6 best, safest place for you to move to and live in with your children.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and Amy's parents get quickly ruled out as suspects. Um, Hours and hours pass. Amy's nowhere to be found. Nobody can find her. Um, and yes, sparkling bubbles. We're actually going to talk about this curtain here shortly. And yeah, Margaret. Now they, the telephones that hang up on the wall with the really long 20 feet cords. I'm sure every teenage girl, if you're my age, sat underneath that phone or walked around with that cord, walking around your house back in the 1980s, And Margaret's mom grabs a blanket and pillow and curls up on the floor right underneath that phone to sit there and wait for Amy to call or law enforcement to call. She didn't move. Sometimes she was sleeping, she was not sleeping. Everybody's still looking for Amy, but there's no Amy. And it was so sad to hear that she's like curled up underneath this phone. I mean, because there's only one or two things kind of going through your head that you would have to decide as a mom at that time. Are you going to stay at home and wait for the call? Or are you going to search all night long? And then if you do go out and search all night long, how much energy are you going to have the next day to continue searching? How do you make up your mind and make those kinds of decisions when your child is missing? How?
Yeah.
I mean, because law enforcement back then and even now sometimes tells parents to stay home. I just don't know what I could do. And then are you even thinking, well, if I go out tonight, I'm not going to have enough energy to search tomorrow? No, because as we know right now, you have Seth Rogers mentally and physically exhausting himself looking for his son for weeks and weeks and weeks, a couple of months of just total pure exhaustion, out beaten feet on the ground looking for his son, Sebastian. So it's so hard, to make the decision on what to do. But she, she slept underneath the telephone. And that night, law enforcement actually got a telephone call by a parent of one of the girls from school that Amy talked to at lunchtime, letting her friends know, like, I was talking to this guy, I'm going to meet him, I'm going to go buy this gift for my mom. So it was that night when law enforcement finds out Amy's with a man. Amy was supposed to meet up with a man, with a stranger that's been talking to her on the phone the previous week. Throughout the week. Wasn't just one phone call, it was several phone calls. Making sure, like, are you still not telling anybody? Are you still keeping the secret? I was kind of floored with the research, finding out that Jason knew that his sister was on. I didn't hear that on the Dateline show that I watched, but I did read it in an article that her brother knew and a couple of friends knew. And then the same story from another friend's parent came in the next morning. So now 2 phone calls have came in. One the night she goes missing, October 27th, 1989, and then October 28th. So they are now looking for Amy and know that she's with a man. And that's when parents find out. That's when she finds out that, or Margaret finds out, like, oh my gosh, she never had choir audition. She realizes what Amy wants to do. I even saw her mom say in a news report talking about Amy and I loved each other so much and we were so close, and she did this because she loved me so much.
Right.
Yeah, and it was just so heartbreaking.
Yeah, really sick. It really does take, I mean, it obviously takes a certain type of sick and twisted individual to hurt a child, but it takes an extra sick and twisted individual to use the love of a mom, the love and the relationship between them to emotionally manipulate her into thinking this person was safe and on her side. And it just is so tragic to think again that she had a stranger danger talk, you
Class
know,
or
right?
presentation. Saw that
But
that day. Yes.
she still felt safe enough with this person to override what she was listening to. No
Right.
red flags were going off in her head. There was no reason for anybody to believe when they saw her go with that man that she didn't want to or was scared to or anything.
Yeah, it's just kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
And then, and at this time now, law enforcement is able to start putting a timeline together. Now they know. Now they know what happened. So they're able to know how Amy's day starts, how it went together. And they figured that she was up there and seen at the Bay Village Square between 2:15 and 3:15 to 3:30. And they realize that Amy was with her abductor during the phone call that was made to her mom at work.
Mm-hmm.
So law enforcement, is talking like you were saying earlier, Kaylee, like, did she say, oh my gosh, if I don't call my mom and tell her, that I'm okay and stuff, she's going to worry. I need to call home. Or was this man brave enough to actually, like, he was brave enough anyway, whether he had her call or not, he was already brave enough to be standing right next to her while she made that phone call.
Right, exactly.
And I haven't been able to find out where she made that phone call from. So I don't know, because they didn't have caller IDs, if they were
I don't
caller
think they know.
IDs.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
Able
know,
to
think they know.
determine whether it was from, a phone booth or what.
Mm-hmm. Just sucks to think that, I think every I guess every decade, if there's missing people, you just look back, you're like, oh, if only it was a little later, because then at least it would have this, and it really just is sad to think. But these missing cases did kind of lay foundation for a safer place for our kids, I mean, we know better now. We know not to
Right.
let our kids go without us. We it's kind of a total change of what it was like back then. And even when we compare it to Chiron, we always say, why wasn't there cameras? Or if only there were more cameras. It was right on the cusp of this digital burst where all these cameras are everywhere now, on every doorstep.
Right.
If only it was just a few years later, and then maybe there would be justice in this case. But that's why we're here, because together there still can be justice.
Yes, I really do believe that, especially when showing pictures of the evidence and stuff,
Yeah.
which we'll get to in a little bit. But this is now, now that they're able to put this timeline together, this is when they start looking into like you were talking about, these long distance calls versus the local calls. They were able to tell that there were many long distance telephone calls that came to the house, but the ones that were coming into the home and everything, they looked into them and they were verified and cleared. And then police realized that that's when these were local calls from the area. And that's when they decided, to really put pressure out there and looking for her and everything else, talking with witnesses, seeing who saw her and who didn't, because there wasn't even footage available. The nearest camera in town was actually at a bank. Hey, babe, could you come turn this light on for me? Oh, babe's got his earplugs in because he can't have his TV on during my live. Hold on, long reach. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, but what you were saying, I heard that too. The only camera, or the closest one, was inside a bank, so it wasn't even on the exterior. Right.
Yeah.
And the footage probably was horrible anyways, so even if it happened right there, CCTV footage sucks. So I can't imagine what it looks like from 1989.
So, while they're out there talking with witnesses and everything else, and then one witness ends up coming forward, and this is a woman that says that She was shopping at the Westgate Mall in Rock River, Ohio, and she thought she saw somebody that resembled the description of Amy, and she was with a man. And police weren't able to confirm whether or not it was her. But what was really strange about this is that this mall sits in between where she went missing from and where Amy is eventually found.
Mm-hmm.
Kalia, can you do me a favor? Because I forgot to write down. I don't think I wrote down the name of that road that she was found on. Did I?
I know it was in, I think, Ashland.
Well, I know it was in Ashland and stuff. We'll get to that in a second. But if you can find out what the name of that road was, I think it's 1184 or something like that.
1181.
Anyway,
1181. Good memory.
I was off.
Country Road 1181.
So yeah, this woman seen her and she matched the description, and Amy that day was last seen in a light green sweatsuit, and she was wearing a white windbreaker, and I believe the sweatsuit had like purple etching or like purple stitching on the outside of it, a little bit like around the borders of her clothing and stuff. So yeah, law enforcement just started conducting this huge, extensive investigation into Amy's disappearance. And on Amy's 11th birthday, the kids at the school and everything get together and they plant a tree for Amy. And like I said earlier, her birthday was in December. And then after Amy's 11th birthday, just a few short months after she came up missing, it was literally just like 3 and then maybe a few days or so, a jogger is jogging down the 1181 county road. And I want to pull up. I like the old news articles, but
Yeah.
this is the one here. I just love the picture of her here. Let me get back to this. Look at that sweet little picture of her. This is just an update that was given later on in a little article written about her later on. And then this next article talks about this jogger. And let me pull it up real quick because I'd like to read this. Yeah, a jogger is running down the road. She sees something out of the corner of her eye, and she gets a little bit closer, and she sees what she believed to be a body. Yeah.
And this was hard for the jogger. And what's interesting is she had jogged there before, and didn't see, I mean, her remains were not in a place that was super obvious. It was kind of off to the side, but still there were people that came forward and said, I had been in that area and I didn't see her body. In fact, the jogger, she had ran there before and didn't see it. And then apparently there were hunters that came forward too and said, we were just there and there was nothing there. And who knows? Maybe they were just in a different area. Maybe, who knows? I mean, maybe, I don't know. I can't explain that. But yeah, they don't believe. I mean, I didn't read any reports that they believe she was actually moved. They just believe that she was concealed in a way that people just didn't notice her right off the bat.
Well, and also the thing is where she was and where she was found was a road off of a road, or just like where this road is located is off another major road. And, we've talked about this before, that people that do this kind of stuff want to put the people that they hurt in areas that they're familiar with. And they really believe that since they're already believing that this guy's from the area and everything else, and where they find her like 50 miles away. And they just think that she was put there and that the person knew that area. Now, this article right here says that Patricia Kidd was still visibly shaken. It was Thursday afternoon, and she was gripped by the memory of the hysterical woman who found Amy Mihaljevics body earlier in the day and in the field along Rule Road in Ashland County. I guess I should have mentioned that she was found. I didn't write down the day. Yes, I did.
It was February 10th, or between February
11th?
8th and February 10th. Or there you go, right around that.
Hold on a second.
It
was the 8th, I think.
Yeah, February 8th. February 8th, 1990.
Yeah, February 8th of 1990 is when she is found. Anyway, sorry. Body earlier in the day in a field along a rural road in Ashland County. The 10-year-old Bay Village girl had been missing since October 27th, triggering a nationwide search. Miss Kidd said she heard someone banging on the door of her ranch house about 7:40 a.m. She opened it up to find her friend, Janet Siebold, crying uncontrollably. "I think I found a body," she said. "Call the police. Why did it have to be me that found her?" Sheriff deputies arrived within 4 minutes of the telephone call. Following Miss Siebold's directions, they quickly found a fully clothed body that later proved to be Amy. Amy had been struck in the back of the head, stabbed more than once in the left side of her neck, and police said Amy was killed within a week after being abducted. They had no comment on any evidence of a assault. Miss Siebold, who lives a mile east of Miss Kidd, was well into her daily morning jog over the rolling farmland of northwest Ashland County when something odd caught her eye. On the west side of County Road 1181, particularly hidden knee-high weeds, a child body had laid face down in a muddy field in clover. It is so sad.
I know. And I think about all the time the ripples that go out in these cases. Of course, the people that are impacted the greatest are the people that absolutely loved Amy herself. But think about this jogger and how her life is now forever changed, even more so from just, being in the area of when somebody disappears and a child disappears and either there's no resolution or there's a tragic outcome like this. That does leave a community-wide wound. I've experienced it with Kyron Horman. I still, I know that so many people relate to what I'm talking about. And so think about being the person, like she said, why did it have to be me? It's like a double-edged sword, because on one side, you got to think like, wow, Amy's family is so grateful. Somebody finally found her and at least brought some closure. Obviously, it's not the outcome anybody wanted, but at least they know. And then on the other side, I get it. Like, imagine finding a little girl and how that trauma just will stay with you the rest of your life.
Haunt you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you close your eyes, that's what you see. It's just crazy.
Sparkling Bubbles is also mentioning something else that I had read. It says there was a cactus-type plant growing through her sweatpants, so her little body had been there for a long while.
Yeah.
It's just so sad. And in other reports and stuff, her underwear had been turned inside out. So we do know that there was just some kind of SA. We also know that people that do this, that kidnap children to do this, the outcome of that child when it's a stranger abduction is just not good. It's like a 6 to 7% chance that they'll even be found alive. And that's just the facts. That's statistics. And it's just really, oh, it's just so disheartening. According to what we found, her cause of death was multiple stab wounds in the back of the neck. This is actually quite in detail. Tissue of transection of the left carotid artery, the left horn, I can't even pronounce these words, left horn or hyroid bone, massive cervical soft tissue hemorrhage, blunt impact to the head with something, hemorrhage of the left, posterior region, advanced postmortem decomposition and partial skeletization of the head, trunk, and extremities. And multiple stab wounds in the neck with, that just goes on to reread the whole thing, and I'm not doing that because it's just so not good. And then this is the area where she was found, 10 years old, and some monster decides that this is what he wanted to do this day. This was the plan. This wasn't just a, no. This
For the moment, this was diabolical, and just sick. And like I said, I mean, when I was researching this, I heard somebody was reporting on it, and they kind of said, on one hand, we don't know if this person, we were comparing this to every crime in the country to see if there was any comparison and was there any connection to anything else. But also, we also had a feeling that this guy may have been his one and only. Like, he just did it, got it out of his system, and then was done. They didn't know which way because they had so many different persons of interest and suspects that were suspicious and could not clear themselves. They just straight up could not clear themselves of their involvement.
Yeah, it's so sad. So the other thing is that in her case, we'll go on to talk about the stuff that happened in 2006, but I want to talk about this is what I want to talk about here. Let's pause. Whoa, back up. Last one. Did it pause? Okay. This is where Bay City is up at the top, and how do you say that? Chattanooga County and Ashland County, 50 miles away from each other. That mall that lady thought that she may have seen her was right in between this. I think it was a legitimate site.
Yeah, especially when you think about what she was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
She was wearing something that was distinctive and bright green.
Right.
And yeah, so I definitely think it definitely could be a credible sighting. It just is unfortunate that at this point they just can't confirm one way or the other. But yeah, I would say that's why they probably released that information and why we know about it, because they do consider it to be credible. And they probably were wondering, did anybody else in this area see her? And maybe they did. We don't know. I heard that they said that they have over 100,000 either pieces of paper or pieces of evidence.
Yeah, and there was evidence that she had been redressed. High yod bone. I don't know if I even said that word right. I was stuttering over my words because of what I was actually reading Halo, because it was really bad.
Yeah.
And that's like going over the Madeline Soto 60 counts of what he did to Madeline. I can't handle that. So there was a piece of fiber that was found on Amy, and it was a caramel colored fiber found on Amy from the interior of a car, a GM product, they believe. between the years of 1975 and 1980. This is one of their pieces of evidence. And then these are the shoes that were missing off of Amy's body when she was found. Very distinctive shoes, I feel like. I think they're actually really super cute. Black with lots of pretty little buttons. There is 20 buttons on each boot, according to what they put out. 20 buttons on each boot. So I'm assuming 10 on each side. I wonder if these boots actually had laces on it. I'm not sure. But these are the boots that were not on Amy. These had been removed. And then these are the earrings that were not on Amy. They are turquoise earrings in the shape of a horse that she was wearing that morning when she left. And these were also not on her. Remember, she loved horses. So I'm betting these were probably like one of her favorite pair of earrings to wear.
From what I heard, they were something she wore daily. So for them to not be on her ears, it again seemed deliberate. It was a deliberate choice of the person, the perpetrator, to take them off her body.
Yeah, because you would have to pull them off. They have those backs, so you would have to, pull them off, which we all know, like some sickos out there want trophies, and she's actually missing quite a few things. Like this is a notebook that she had in her backpack. Her backpack was missing. This notebook was inside. This notebook in particular is very different from all of the other kids' notebooks that were other kids at school had, because this came from her dad, Mark's work. And wasn't that a car dealership? Am I right in saying that?
I can't say for certain. Sorry.
Yeah,
I could Google it real quick, but.
And on this notebook, there was a clasp on it. And the clasp on it says best in class. So these are items, like if you had ever seen these items, seen anybody with these items, call law enforcement. Matter of fact, let me throw up the banner for her real quick.
Unfortunately, when we get into the suspects, not all of them seem to have lived stable lives where they might even still have these belongings. But, I'm thinking, have you gone through your grandparents' stuff and you found something like this? That's the kind of thing I'm thinking, have you seen this in your grandpa's, little trinket dish and, or did some, that's the kind of thing I'm thinking. That's how we'll find them.
Did you go to an estate sale somewhere and see these kinds of items? A garage sale? Did you see somebody using the notebook or somebody wearing a pair of earrings like this back then, or even still? Because, things could happen. A person wearing these horse earrings now could have got it from someone who got it from someone that got it from someone, and law enforcement would be able to put those pieces together. So if you see any of these pieces of evidence, please call law enforcement. You can call Bay Village Police Department at 440-871-1234 with any information or tips on Amy Mihaljevic abduction. Stop laughing at me, babe. And abduction or the murder, or you can actually call the 877 FBI Ohio. That is 877 FBI Ohio. And this was in her backpack. The backpack was missing. It was just a notebook. It had a calculator in it and stuff. It was just not something that all the other children around were carrying around, because this was given to her by her dad. So horse-shaped earrings, these type of boots. And then this is the curtain. This is where Jake, Amy's dog,
saves the day.
Yeah, saves the day, saves his Amy. He had died and passed away several years after Amy was abducted and stuff. But law enforcement was smart enough to take the hairs off or from the dog.
So smart. Yeah.
Yeah, so smart. And they recently, I mean, wasn't it like 2016 that
Right.
they um
They DNA
go
tested
through.
the. Oh,
Yep, they
sorry.
go through, they do DNA tests. They're looking at fibers on this handmade curtain, obviously made of some kind of a quilt or anything. You could have seen it hanging up in a barn. You could have seen it hanging up in somebody's house. You're not going to forget this quilt. It's an ugly olive green. I'm not saying olive green's ugly, Tab, because my daughter's here and she loves her greens, but um, it's a worn out, ugly olive green curtain. And they found Jake's hairs on this, her dog's hairs. And then they found one of Amy's hair on it. So they know that at one point, this is found 300 feet or 300 yards, excuse me, away from where her body was found. And they are pretty sure that this is what Amy was rolled up in. And I think just with the weather and everything else, and as her body is decomposing and everything, this just eventually came off of her and probably flew away out there in the field or something.
I agree. Yeah, 300 yards, they weren't sure because that is a pretty good distance, but look at it. I mean, and back then, they just kept it. It could be related, it could not, but how smart to keep the dog's hair and to test it. And yeah, they think, like you said, this is a handmade curtain, maybe from a bedspread. And again, we're talking the same thing from the earrings. Like you said, barn, garage sale. Did you have this when you were a kid? Did you, go to your uncle's house and you remember seeing this? It's just weird things like that. You never know. And that's why it's so important to keep Amy's name out there, share her flyer, share this picture of this, share anything about Amy, because it's going to take somebody recognizing something. That's how they've made these breakthroughs in her case over the decades. And they literally say it. I love to hear a police department say it themselves. They don't care how small the tip is. They say, we don't know what the little teeny tiny piece of the puzzle that they're missing to crack the case wide open. So they will listen to any little thing you have to say if you think it have even just an inkling. It's worth the call.
Right. Hello, Connie. Thank you for coming in. Good night, love. Thank you for just stopping in to say hi. We really appreciate you being here.
Right.
And, Sparkling Bubbles is saying back to the notebook. Yes, Amy's dad worked as a salesman for Buick and gave it to Amy. I was pretty sure it was a car dealership. There's so many things I still feel like we could go over in this. I really can't wait to find out what more information that we are able to put together too on like the persons of interest. Halo art. Wow, very smart. Real detective work before all technology advances. Yes, 2016. So I mean, like that was like 20 something years later. We're at 34 years right now, but they're finding new things. So this gives you hope for the cases that are getting older and older and older out there. Technology just gets better and better and better. And Kaylia was even telling me earlier that they have men's hairs also have been found, which we'll get into that when we start talking about persons of interest and everything else.
Yeah, that's just crazy. And that's why I said at the beginning, this is a solvable case. They just need that a little bit more to get them. And it is great to finally see justice come to these old cases. And I definitely believe we'll see justice for Amy.
I believe that too. So does her father. Her father's gone on several interviews saying that he thinks that his daughter's case is going to be solved. In the most recent Dateline that was done too, he says that he feels like it's going to be done soon. So maybe he knows something we don't really know. These pictures actually run into a video, and law enforcement talks about this blanket and any tips that you guys might be able to give law enforcement. I know you were going to say something, Kaylee. I'll let you as soon as this is done.
Through the 32 years, we weren't positive what the relevance was of those two pieces of evidence because they were so far away from her body.
This green curtain and white blanket were found in Ashland County near the body of 10-year-old Amy Mihaljevic more than 30 years ago. Two pieces of evidence investigators say may help solve the 32-year-old murder case. In 2016, detectives discovered that hair from Amy's dog was found on the curtain. A few weeks ago, detectives say they learned more.
Amy's hair was found on that curtain. So we know for a fact that her hair was on that curtain.
Now they are hoping to find someone that may remember that curtain that detectives believe was homemade.
It looks more like some type of a quilt that was made into a curtain.
Amy went missing on October 27, 1989, after she met an unknown man after school in a shopping plaza in Bay Village. She had told others she was meeting a man who she thought was going to help her pick out a gift for her mother. She was never seen alive again.
We're not going to give up. We're not going to give up.
While no arrests have been made, police say they do have a number of possible suspects.
We are currently looking at people as suspects. We do a lot of investigation into this case for a 32-year-old case. We have people that we're consistently looking at as far as suspects.
And they are hoping this curtain contains some more crucial evidence that they will soon find thanks to the latest DNA advancements.
If it leads us to one of the people that we're already looking at as a suspect, that would be a home run.
Right. A home run.
I'm going to just go ahead and leave that number up there while we sit and talk about some other stuff. So Amy's parents ended up getting a divorce by 1991, which was just, a couple of years after Amy passed away. It was really super sad. And also, 12 years after Amy's death, Margaret Nolte, the mom, at age 54, was found dead at her Las Vegas apartment because she had left Ohio and went to move with her mom in Las Vegas. She died from complications due to chronic alcoholism, according to the Clark County Coroner's Office in Nevada. Margaret's mom said that she couldn't get a real hold on a happy life anymore. Everything just turned her off. I'm sure this is what really brought on her death. And friends and people that knew her and stuff said that she just never could get over the death of her daughter. And her mom's pretty much just saying she drank herself to death. And you know what? I cannot blame her. I can't tell you how I would be years later after something like that, especially when she ended also out like bleeding out. She bled out completely because of the stab wounds and stuff, knowing that she stabbed, beaten, SA'd. Like, how can you live knowing that,
Yeah. It especially, again, that she was preyed upon for her innocence, her sweetness, and her love for her mom. It almost is like it's not her mom's fault by any means, but could you imagine the guilt that she held? You can, just as mom, I can only imagine how guilty I would feel, even though it is not the guilt that I deserve to place on myself. I just imagine, I empathize, and it's sad to hear that she ended up, not being able to beat alcoholism, and she died from it. That really, really is heartbreaking. She did do some amazing things in Amy's legacy, in Amy's honor, before she passed away. And that legacy still lives on and impacts the city of Bay Village. So that's pretty spectacular.
Is this what you're talking about?
That's exactly where I was going with that. She created this fund that she didn't create the fund. She created the community fund for assisting missing youth. AKA Community Fund for Amy, which I just think is that's beautiful. But yeah, the scholarship fund was established in 1994 with the proceeds of the fund that Amy's mom created to honor the memory of Amy, which goes on to explain, the situation. But basically it says the scholarship is awarded every year to one or more college-bound Bay High School seniors who have been active in community affairs, which is just amazing. Her legacy still lives on. The community still does this every year. That is something that's spectacular. I wish that's something that we could spearhead for so many other missing kids. I know that missing kids, like I say, it's a tragic loss. Nobody deserves to lose their life this way or go through this by any means, but the foundation that they lay and the impact to make things safer for other kids, that legacy definitely needs to be honored and talked about. Like, she worked with John Walsh for a short time. Yeah, I believe that. I know she also, I had read that she also, I don't know if she worked with or what, but she was connected with the class foundation, or maybe before. But yeah, because that Polly class went missing after Amy was discovered. So she definitely, I think she may have even used her foundation to help with that in some way. But yeah, after 5 years, the Amy Fund, they disbanded the organization itself, but they did transfer it to the scholarship, and that's where it stayed since then, which is just, I think, again, it's just amazing. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
This is the one where she, it starts here. A lighted candle has burned in Margaret McNulty's Cleveland home, a symbol of hope for 12-year-old Polly class. So, yeah.
I'm going to go to the restroom while you talk about the class.
Sure. I'll just, we'll just talk about this. It kind of goes on, talks more about what the foundation itself does. I'm skipping kind of to the middle, to the end of the article. It says about 1,460 people attended a memorial service for Amy at Bay Presbyterian Church. McNulty vowed to help keep children from the clutches of kidnappers by establishing the Community Fund for Assisting Missing Youth, Amy. The nonprofit organization pays certified teachers to show children how to protect themselves. It empowers them to know, or it empowers them with knowledge to say no or scream if they feel uncomfortable, McNulty said Monday night. In just over 2 years, we have taught over 70,000 children in the 5 surrounding county area. McNulty wants people to know that the organization, which is funded by private donations, is still alive. The Community Fund for Amy hotline is reported there. This article was obviously from, I think, was it 1991? Maybe a little longer than that. We as parents tell our children to obey adults and authority. One of the things we overlook is children have the right to say, no, leave me alone, or no, I don't like what you're doing to me. She said parents and children should have a secret code. And honestly, that thought process was probably before her time. I can't say I wasn't alive in 1989, but parents still struggle with that thought with their kids right now. It's still something that is a hot button topic in parenting groups, that kids have we need to teach them that it's okay to say no when they don't want to give hugs to their family members and things. It's because that way they have the strength and the tools if the time came where they can also say no in other situations, or maybe make a decision that doesn't lead them to danger. Not that, I don't victim blame by any means, but also if there are ways that we can keep our children safer with knowledge, I definitely think that's super amazing. That Amy's mom decided to do that for her to honor her daughter. It like I said, make it safer for other kids, and it's helped. Every bit of that has helped.
My kids are exactly that with all their children too. If their children do not want to hug people, they will say something. They'll go, she doesn't want to give you a hug. You don't make her give you a hug. She has boundaries. All
Yeah,
three of my kids, I'm so
so
proud of
amazing.
them for
I'm proud to
teaching
hear
them
that
that.
too. Right, it's
Yeah,
important, and it keeps kids safe in so many ways, from um, SA, from in their family, from anything, and just setting that boundary, it just gives them that empowerment and that strength. And just while we're on the topic, I know this might be a bird walk here, but if we have any other parents listening in the comments or whatever, one thing that I learned from, I don't know exactly where, but I think it's awesome to do. When you're asking your children how was their day, how did things go, get in the habit of asking, was there anything that you didn't like today? And setting that, even if it's something as silly as like, oh, this person did this, and you know they drew on my paper, or whatever
that's a
it is.
great idea. That's a
It
great.
just, it sets that boundary of that if there's anything that they feel uncomfortable with at any time, if it were in any situation, they know they can come to you and just tell you, I can tell my parent something I don't like, even if somebody is telling me don't tell my parent. So just little things. I know that that was a bird walk, but we are advocates for missing children. And so any little bit, any tidbits like that, yeah, I would love to share with our with our people. When I learned
Right.
that, I'm like, that's important, that's awesome, and I'm definitely doing that from now on.
Yeah, and to go a little bit further here on Amy's case too, in 2006, investigators later figured out that Amy was not the only girl who had received these kind of phone calls around the same time. There were at least three others. Two of them I know I saw on Dateline. They won't give up their names or whatever. They are convinced that they were being watched and stalked. The time that he would actually call them knowing mom was at work or knowing where these parents worked, they were being stalked. This man knew their families. Like we said earlier, this wasn't I'm just gonna grab her today. He talked to Amy on the phone during a whole week before he actually met up with her. So very planned, very meticulous thinking, and he had done this. Now, one of the girls that he spoke with, he was telling her, okay, you got to keep this a secret. And she was already trying to talk to her sister and tell her sister what was going on. And this guy goes from being this really super nice guy on the phone, trying to get her to go with him to buy a gift for her mother, to being not so nice, actually being quite ugly and turning into the monster that he actually really is. When he hears her start talking to her sister, he is, I told you you couldn't tell anybody, and gets immediately upset and everything else, hangs up the phone, realizes, okay, I can't do anything with her because she won't keep the secret type thing. These other girls went to school in Olmsted, and were roughly the same age as Amy, around 10, 11. We know these creepers like, their particular ages or whatever. And in the weeks leading up to Amy's abduction, a man called them at home after school and pretended to be a co-worker. It's the same thing, either their mothers or their fathers. He told them that he needed their help to pick out a present, just like in Amy's case, and asked them to come with him to the store. None took the bait, but with each attempt, the killer refined his pitch until finally he called Amy and she agreed to meet up with him. And, and then another one, while they're on the phone, one of their siblings actually hears what he's trying to ask, the young lady to do. And they're like, hang up the phone. Who is that? And just, it really caught them off guard. The sibling got up and made them, hang up the phone. But this just goes to show, like, he wasn't done yet. And law enforcement is actually looking for any other law enforcement officers, throughout, nationwide, maybe in the world, that have had similar cases to this, where a child is describing to them this man. Because this ruse, I would have to say, is a pretty damn good ruse to get a child away from
Yeah.
the house, to keep a secret, to do something loving for their parent. And all these girls also had a place in common. What was the name of that place they all had in common?
I don't know the exact name of it right now,
I have
but
it on the picture. Hold on. I've got it. It's so there it is, Lake Erie Nature and Science Center. And there was a login sheet. All of these girls would have to, they went there to this place. Let me find it again. Hold on. Do you pause? Okay, wait. Dang it. There we go. All these girls went to this Lake Erie Nature and Science Center. It's one of the reasons why Amy's dad, Mark, takes off and goes down to the creek to look for her, because she liked to play down in this area. She liked to play down around where this creek was and stuff. And there's like this sign-in sheet when you go into the place. And all of their, because they're trying to find out, like, what do all of these girls have in common? Well, this place was one of the places that all these girls had in common. And we will be going over this and one of the suspects that they actually found that worked here. And we'll be talking about that on our next live for Amy, which will be sometime this month. We're going to take a couple weeks to do the second part to this, because we really, really want to gather up a lot of information also about the intense search that law enforcement actually did for Amy. But unfortunately, this case, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, this case doesn't have a ton of layers. They know what happened. They were able to put a timeline together. Now it's just all about catching this killer, and we need your help. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to just show some more pictures. One more time. Let's show the pictures of the evidence in this case. And, fibers that were found on Amy. Oh, I guess I got to add it to the stage before I try pausing it. Caramel colored fibers that were found on her that they think was from a GM model. Well, they're pretty sure it was from a GM model car between the years of 1975 and 1978. So if you knew anybody in 1989 in this area that drove a GM of any sort.
a brown one. They do think it was a brown one.
A brown or a gold, I think.
Yeah, gold too. Yeah, it's definitely a distinct color.
Yeah, and it would have this kind of interior, like a caramel-like interior, a golden kind of colored interior. I'm sure if you're as old as me, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because those old school cars ran forever. Now, the other thing here is the fact that her backpack was missing also, that had very important things in it. Her boots were not on her. These aren't your everyday boots. These are beautiful black boots with 20 buttons on each one. And they're missing. Again, you could have bought them at a garage sale, could have seen them at a garage sale, at a estate sale. Someone could have been wearing them. Somebody's child could have been wearing them. Oh my gosh. And if you think about that, I don't know why my mind goes there, but say this person that took Amy had a child and they wanted to relive their thing all the time, and they had a child around them, whether it was their own child, a grandchild, a friend who had a child that maybe they could have given these boots to just watch them walk around and parade in these boots to remind him. You know what I mean?
Right. It's that ultimate act of like trophy and like thrill. If this person was a thrill, if this was just a thrill act of crime, you know, we don't know.
And then, of course, you have the turquoise horse. Excuse me, I have a mouthful of food because I have not ate yet. A mouthful. I was about to describe the earrings as a mouthful. Horse turquoise earrings that she loved. She loved horses. Another suspect was somebody that was where she went to ride horses. So if you saw those earrings back in the day or know anybody that had a pair or have seen them now. And then, of course, this is the
her little binder, her distinct, pretty rare and distinct binder. This is definitely would be eye-catching.
Yeah, with a little gold clip on it that says best in class, came from her dad's work, and her dad sold cars at a Buick company. Just keep that in mind. Very, not all the kids had this kind of binder back then.
If you want to help, the best way is to be basically, honestly, sharing on social media. Take these pictures, take screenshots of these, share them if you don't mind, if you want to help. You can also find our Facebook page on Facebook where we also posted these, and you can share from there. It's the same as the YouTube, the Pacific or missing PNW Crimes Revisited. Sorry.
Yep, and I'm going to have mods throw up our members link in case anybody wants to become a member. You can just click the link that's going to be added to the chat. Yeah, if you don't want to become a member, that's fine too. We appreciate everybody being here, and make sure to hit the like button. We are really glad to be covering this case because, like we said, even though it's 34 years old, we really do believe that this case is solvable, and we believe it's going to be solved. I mean, this new evidence and the technology and this ugly curtain, somebody made it. Somebody made this curtain, you guys. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got to know something about this curtain. I mean, and then if you come this way, let me see if I can find it. It actually gives a really close up. So we have to listen to this for a second because then I'm going to pause where I think.
The shopping plaza in Bay Village. She had told others she was meeting a man who she thought was going to help her pick out a gift for her mother. She was never seen alive again.
We're not going to give up. We're not going to give up.
While no arrests have been made, police say they do have a number of possible suspects.
We are currently looking at people as suspects. We do a lot of investigation into this case for a 32-year-old case. We have people that we're consistently looking at as far as suspects.
And they are hoping this curtain contains some more crucial evidence that they will soon find thanks to the latest DNA advancements.
If it leads us to one of the people that we're already looking at as a
found on the curtain.
I'm trying to find a very specific picture.
They learned more.
Amy's hair was found on that curtain. So we know for a fact that her hair was on that curtain.
Now they are hoping to find someone that may remember that curtain that detectives believe was homemade.
It looks more like some type of a quilt that was made into a curtain.
It doesn't show it. There it was. And it didn't show it for very long. Okay, here we go.
Of a quilt that was made into.
This is what I wanted to show everybody. Just a very unique way, like taking other bits and pieces of this quilt to make like the little hooks or whatever needed to like slide it over a pole or whatever. This is what the top part looks like. And just remember the patterns, that are on this. Yeah, I mean, if you guys have any information whatsoever, please call law enforcement. No tip is too small. We always say that. You can call the Bay Village Police Department at 440-871-1234 with any information or tips in the Amy Mihaljevic abduction, and murder. Or you can call 877 FBI Ohio. Now, if you guys would like to chat about the case, I already see that everybody's doing it. We can just have some commentary or some just if anybody has any questions about anything besides the suspects. No, because we're going to have a live on that. Because I really want to talk about them. I really do. But we really want to have another live on that so we can actually put a lot more time into it. And we are trying not to have these huge 3.5 hour long lives that we are famous for.
Right.
Getting on a schedule, trying to, cut things down a little bit and just,
Just give you guys something to look forward to. We're really excited to cover these suspects because, I'm over here with Sparkling Bubbles. She's all over talking about this science teacher. But you guys will be mind blown when you hear about the other suspects and why they are suspects, because it's just as equally as, wow, it could be this person too. And we didn't even touch on why those people were considered suspects. So definitely a very intriguing case, and it only is going to take that one little piece of evidence to break it open. So
thank you so much, Halo, for adding that. I really appreciate all my mods that are here helping us in chat. Thank you, Avi, for coming. I'm always giving thanks to my partner, Kalia. We work together. This is our channel. This is what we do. And, even though it's hard things to do and hard things to talk about, we just feel like it's so damn important to be talking about these children, whether it's a case that happened last week or a case like this that's 34 years old. If we can get justice for a child, even after 34 years, we're gonna do what we can. And law enforcement is asking in Bay Village for your help. And that's what we're doing. We're listening to what law enforcement needs, and they need help. So here we are. Thank you so much, Sparkling Bubbles, for being here. You had a lot of information.
Right.
I didn't have written down.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm glad that we covered this case, and it was a case that intrigued you. And obviously it's a case you're passionate about. It's like I said, you obviously are part of that community that still aches for Amy. And I have never heard of her case until Samantha brought her up to me. And I definitely, I'm grateful that you joined us in the chat too. You said you were a silent lurker, so
right.
Thank you.
She said hiding in the bushes. So Kalia, since you say that I turned you on to this case, now I gotta ask, did you get sucked in really fast?
Yes, and I'm going to be completely honest. Because you described it as so cut and dry, I was thinking that I wouldn't, but then when I started listening and researching, and I had mentioned it in the comments, I'm going to say it out loud because I know our live chat replay isn't always available for everybody to go and watch. There is a Dateline episode you can watch on this. Also, there is an amazing book written by James Renner. He was in the area and he was 11 years old, and he also was somebody that has been there since day one and has always been dedicated to this case. So he wrote an amazing book you can go check out on Audible. And there's also a podcast that came out a couple years ago called Amy Should Be 40. I was able to find it easily on Spotify. It's a 5-episode series, and each episode's about 20 or 30 minutes. Very, very well researched. And James Renner himself is there as a co-host, and so he's there on every episode. They also have her best friend Christy that we mentioned in this episode. So I
don't know if it was a rumor or not, because it was in like some Sun SUN like magazine that said something about in 2023 her best friend passed away.
Oh wow.
And she was
Well,
like kind of, I don't know if that's a rumor or not. I couldn't find any other article. And sometimes when I see the word son, I'm instantly like, is this a verifiable? Like, I don't know. But I want to try to find that information out because I think she may have passed away.
wow.
And by the way, everybody congratulate Hella. Halo Artcraft and Crime Chat has joined our team and became a moderator in our Michael Vaughn Crimes Revisited
Facebook group.
um, Facebook group.
Hmm.
So she is helping
Welcome.
us run things over there. Thank you so much. We appreciate that so much. You don't even know. Yeah. And what else were you going to say? I know you were about to say something a while ago, too. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But because you were going on before I said that she passed away, because you said that she was over there in their podcast.
Yes, she was included in the podcast. It just was it seems like a really well done. There's a lot of coverage on Amy's case. Oh, what I was going to say, actually, it did just pop back in my brain. If you listen to the Amy or anything about this, I'd still hope you come back when we do our own deep dive on the suspects and the searches, because I would love to hear all of our members and all of our viewers what they think and who they would lean to. Who do they think sounds like it could be? Because yeah, there's a lot of evidence pointing in multiple different directions. It's going to be interesting to listen to why people think one person over the other, you know?
Yeah, and Renner doesn't really talk about suspects, does he?
In that Amy's Should Be 40 podcast, they do talk about suspects, but one thing they agreed to is that since they have never been charged, they didn't name any of them. So I have never actually looked up what their names are. I've only heard all about the different ones, and I'm just like, whoa. It almost adds another layer because when you're just hearing these suspects, it's like, okay, I'll just give you a little hint. When you see the suspects, multiple of them compared to the composite sketches, they all look like them. They
Yeah,
all look
they
like
do.
it's like, well, we'll all be
And I
darned.
found, yeah, and I found the name of all those suspects. I actually posted it in our group where we keep all of our information at, so you can go take a peek at something over there.
Okay, yeah, I will, because we're gonna hit the ground running on getting this one. This one, hopefully, it might end up being a 3-hour live, depending on what we're able to bring together.
Yeah, and don't forget that this is where Amy was last seen. So maybe you saw something there at the Bay Village Square that day, or her walking through the parking lot and didn't come forward then because you didn't think your tip was important enough, and now you are reconsidering. So again, please call the FBI at 877 FBI Ohio if you have any tips, or you can call the Bay Village Police Department at 440-871-1234. And if you don't have anything else to say, if nobody else in chat has anything to say, I think that we're done. I'm going to play that video again that I played at the beginning in case anybody missed it. There is a bunch of like old article clips and stuff throughout the video. Lots of pictures of Amy. I did not know what her favorite color was, so I don't know what color hearts to throw up, but she loved horses. So let's throw up any kind of hearts that you want and some horses for Amy. Appreciate each of you for coming in. Thanks again, Kaylia, for always joining. And yeah, do you have anything else to say, hun?
Nope, appreciate it. I just the same. Ditto to what Samantha says.
Yeah, Renner also is one of the guys on True Crime Garage too, by the way. Isn't it True Crime Garage?
Yeah, I
on
believe
YouTube.
so.
So he has his own YouTube channel too, True Crime Garage. And, you know, he's just a man. He's a man now, but he was a young kid, Amy's age, when Amy disappeared. And yeah, he just became obsessed with her abduction and everything else. And why he's doing podcasts, writing books, and all of this, and actually works with law enforcement when it comes to the information and everything. It's actually really crazy. So, all right, everybody, have a good night. Thanks, Maud. Thanks, everybody in chat. Good to see you. Hit the like on the way out, and come back for part 2.